I try wherever possible to follow a conscious approach to parenting. It's quite simple. We just acknowledge children as sovereign beings as opposed to being simply an extension of ourselves. But over the past year, I feel like we've done everything and anything but acknowledge our children as sovereign beings. So I took my daughter to a gymnastics class the other day. And as we were entering, everyone had to stand in a line before going in to have their temperature checked. And there was this one little girl standing there who was at the front of the line with her mum. And she was literally clawing into her mum to move her head away from this temperature gun that she didn't want poked at her head. And I was observing this thinking, when did we get to the point where a 2-year-old child's needs is thought of as being so much less important than the rules and guidelines? When this 2-year-old child's intuition was telling her that having something like a gun poked at her head didn't feel safe, why were the grown-ups in that situation not looking at this and thinking, let's just let that be, that's okay. That's okay, we're all going to be okay. Instead of having this fear that is guiding and propelling everything down to not allowing our children to feel safe. It's kind of counterintuitive because everyone thinks they're taking these measures to keep everyone safe. But if our children don't feel safe and they're not being raised as sovereign beings who understand innately what they need, then what sort of lessons are we teaching them? We then went inside and we all had to sit down on the floor while we did warm-up exercises for 10 minutes. Now, I get that this is part of gymnastics. I really do. But I had a 2-year-old who hadn't seen soft play equipment or any sort of gymnastic equipment or anything like that for a year, at which point she was too young to actually even remember it. So she was off. She didn't want to do the warm-up exercises. And obviously I had to bring her back, and I was being told, bring her back. She's not allowed to go there at the moment. And it just got me thinking, if a 2-year-old's body is telling them that they need to move, but the rules and guidelines are telling us that that's not okay, I just wonder what sort of world we're bringing our children into. And I know there'll be some people watching this thinking, but children do have to keep to the rules. They have to learn how to keep to rules. Yes, but to what extent? To what extent do children need to keep to the rules until they get to the point that most of us are at, where they stop learning how to listen to their intuition, where they stop remembering how to tune into that intuition? It's taken me a long time to get to the point where I can tune in with my intuition and really know what it's telling me. And I believe the intuition to be a part of our higher selves, which is really, really important in terms of growth. I don't think this is like a woo-woo concept about higher selves. We know that energy exists. We know everything is energy. We know that this human body isn't all that there is. There is a higher self guiding us. And that is not lost on a 2-year-old. If anything, it's stronger in children. It's so innate. And by not listening to them and not giving them the opportunity to tell us how they feel and what they need in order to thrive and feel safe, I wonder what we're doing to the future generations. I guess we've never really had the opportunity to learn how to tune into our intuition because we're always just taught rules are there to be followed. But what if the very act of keeping to the rules is what's preventing us from being the authentic sovereign beings we were born to be? I feel like there is a way out of this darkness that we find ourselves in. But what if the way out of that darkness was acknowledging and listening to this new generation and allowing them to guide us instead of us telling them what they need to do to keep safe? What if they were guiding us back towards their intuitive selves and their intuitive natures instead of us pushing our agendas on them? Could we imagine maybe what sort of world would be around when they are at the age that we are now? How differently things would be run if the world was being run on intuition. I just thought we could think about that for a minute and really kind of observe our children and what they're telling us and what safety actually means and what authenticity means and what sovereignty means in the world of a child. And maybe we can observe that and follow it and see where that leads us.